Great. So hi, everyone, and welcome to the Spring Writes Poetry and Prose Open Mic. We're so happy to have you all here tonight. Thank you so much to the wonderful local writers who have offered to share their work with us. We have 9 folks scheduled, although I think some folks might be running a little late, but I will keep an eye out for them in our waiting room, and hopefully they'll be able to join us. So each of them will have 6 minutes to read some of their own work. I will be keeping track and give people signals as they're getting to their time. If we have extra time at the end, then we will open up the floor to anybody in our audience who would like to share as well. Because we're trying to stay on schedule here and have as much time for reading, please hold your applause until the end and stay muted. You are, however, welcome to put anything in the chat that you'd like to let people know that you are enjoying their work. Let's see, if you'd like to find out more about Spring Writes events, you can check the full calendar at springwrites.org. That's springwrites WRITES.org. With all that said, I will give our stage to our first reader, Suzanne Brody. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. I thought that tonight I would share from my latest book, Unearthed. And this is a book that contains a lot of poems that I found that I had written a lot earlier in my middle school and high school years. And it's dedicated to my 9th grade English teacher. Tribute in memory of Mr. Harris. He taught simplify. His gruff voice dissected books, bespoke dry humor, concealed softness. A taskmaster, he made us strive for perfection, rewarded us with chalk missiles and inverted checks. He animated words, gave us the gift of literature and a 10-cent pen, lined paper and a voice of our own. With flannel shirts and stockinged feet, he perched on flimsy desks, ruled the class, and won my loving respect. Writer's block. I have this boiling, bubbling of ideas festering in the chill night air, but inside, they drip away like blood, leaving my body empty and unfulfilled. Uneven exchange. Have you not yet learned the power of words, the way in which they work to build or break, and yours have done the latter? You tell me what I do is not meant for a lady, and my bag weighted with books you melt with a scornful eye. Even knowing this is the world I built for myself, you scorn the energies I pour into battered texts and the memorizing of words that were yours from birth in a language where not even the alphabet is something I can claim as my own without effort. You say I can never hope to understand the world you're from, yet I forgive the crusted opinions you've offered me. In your sorrow at being far from home in an alien country, my arms are there to comfort you, and I take away from my time to fill yours. Across the darkness, I share my thoughts, listening to the stories of your heart. Still, you refuse to call me friend. But when I run from the room, I do it to protect you from the hurt that boils inside me, threatening to explode. Nursery nonsense. Blue and green of winter dawn, standing in a snow cake. I am winter, you are dawn. Our baby is a little boy, riding on a dragon's wings, catching clouds and chasing rabbits through a dandelion briar. Purple and pink of summer snow that lights on noses and melts on tongues, finding the kitten's lost mittens. Cold air blows in, around, and under a mossy cottage in hidden dell beneath a lion's paw. We float in foam upon the moon until the book is closed, stopping the snail on its way to work. I am dawn and you are winter. Our baby is a little girl who hugs you close to kiss goodnight. And from Mermaid Tears, your path. I watch you trying to navigate the once smooth path, now proven an optical illusion, strewn with unforeseen boulders and missing patches. Through a barrier constructed by your tears and tail-chasing thoughts, I try to break through, but telepathy was never our strength, so I write. You can still reach your goals if you can determine what they are and how much you'll sacrifice in order to get there. Free will offering. I offer you this bundle even though it is not a gift nor a sacrifice to atone for sin. I offer you part of the burden that's been clouding my mind and strangling my heart. That piece of myself I want you to consume with your fire. That piece I don't want to find again. That piece blocking my path. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Suzanne. That was wonderful. Next up, we have Rich Recchia. Are you ready, Rich?
Yeah, yep, I'm here. So I want to start off with the first thing I ever submitted to Poem in Your Pocket Day. I don't know how many years ago that was, but it's called Pizza. The best thing about pizza is the sauce and the cheese and the crust and all the toppings. Yum. This next thing I wrote, it's a haiku about the town I grew up in called Blodgett Mills. And I wrote it a few years ago. And then last year I added a verse after I found out that one of my best childhood friends passed away. I came up with this during my walk to Shortstop for morning coffee. Blodgett Mills, New York. Recchias, Rumsies, Rioms, look at all them R's. R's in Brown, Greenwood. There's an R in Vickery, none in Blodgett Mills. Railroad tracks, river, the playground, cemetery, Four Corners, the Grange, old ceramic store, Kinney's Hill, great place to slide, wading through the creek. Tommy, Leon, Steve, we just lost one of the gang. Rest in peace, Jackie. This next thing is, this was my first submission for Poem in Your Pocket Day this year, but I ended up going with something else because this didn't fit the theme. It's a limerick about Wordle. There once was a game called Wordle that was followed by a game called Dordle, then Quartle, then Sortle, then Setaquartle, then Hurdle, then Loodle, and I think I'll go back to just Scrabble. And my last tiny little thing, I like to write silly songs, and this is something I came up with during the summer. It's very short. It's called Bacon. Bacon, 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 bacon. I love to eat bacon, I have it every day. It scares all the vegetarians away. Bacon, 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 bacon. It has a lot of fat, but I don't care. I love to see bacon grease flying everywhere. Bacon, 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 bacon. Bacon, 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 bacon. That's it, folks.
Thank you very much, Rich. That was great. I especially appreciated that last one there. So next up on the list here, we have Susie Li. Susie, are you ready?
Yes, I'm Susie. I'm reading a short one-page story I wrote a while back. It's called, the title is Artist as a Young Man. I was introduced to Guo at the age of 12. My mother was hired into the Guo's family as a housekeeper. Guo's mother was a well-known classical vocalist. His father, a respected college professor, Guo was their only son, living in a pampered life of Queensland, destined for a brilliant career of his choice. I remember him as a young man of great beauty, even though he often dressed in casual rags, with face half hidden behind his shaggy, thick hair. His angular, crisp face, his pale skin, and his willowy stature were blended perfectly to inspire fantasy. Everything about him was deliberately artistic. His works, his instrument, his outfit, and his looks. I was charmed instantly, and he kindly included me in his circle for a few years. I followed him around like an adoring little brother, carrying his camera bags, setting up tripods, trudging to remote places for good shots. He wasn't a great student at math or science, but he had the rare talent for visual arts. In the early days, he painted. Later, he moved on to photography. By the time I met him, he was a community college student, already with a reputation as a budding art photographer. He worked slowly and deliberately. I didn't see much of his production, but the few I did made a huge impression on me. They were works of sentimentality, whether black and white photography of scenery or people, or paintings of abstraction. The subject didn't matter. The surrounding emitted gray tranquility punctured with bloody redness. They were beautiful, poetic, intriguing, and they told stories. You couldn't help but wonder if the artist was a melancholy man looking for ways to communicate his explosive loneliness. Although you question if the photographs were somewhat staged, the effect was undeniably powerful. But in real life, he wasn't as thoughtful as his photographs. He had a sense of entitlement, that he should be treated differently because he was an artist. He could be as gentle and charming as he could be cruel and selfish. I feel sorry for the series of young women whose hearts he had broken. They were his muse and a nourishment to be desired and discarded at will. His appetite for them was so insatiable, yet he tired of them so easily. Such a flawed man could produce such great art. I just don't understand it. Eventually, we parted ways, secretly because I could no longer suffer the knowledge of his mistreatment of the very people who had loved him. The artist in him somehow destroyed the lover or friend in him. That may explain the allure of his loneliness. Years later, I heard that he had married and divorced twice, spent a long time overseas, learning and establishing himself to be a world-class art photography. The end.
Thank you, Susie. That was wonderful. That was all you wanted to share today then?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So next up we have, let's see, Emily Cotman. Are you ready to go, Emily?
Yes, ready to go. Thank you. Yep. Can you hear me? Maybe.
Yes, I can.
Oh, good.
Let me see. Sorry, I'm just trying to find you.
No, you're good.
Oh, there you are. Okay. There. Okay. All set.
Thank you. I'm Emily Cotman. I'm going to be reading today from a zine that I put together for the zine fair that happened this past weekend at Buffalo Street Books and at the downstairs. And I'll read the poem first, and then I'll tell you about it. So this is called So the Gods Mutter. We pass time in the sand side by side, with the gods all unbound and unshodden, old echelons lost to the tide. They spin grains into palaces fine, into lace more exquisite than cotton, this sand that we share side by side. While we press our hands fervently, try to work patterns of our bones begotten, our fingerprints lost to the tide, and we rattle a breathless supply, an incessance of questions we oughtn't, while we sit in the sand side by side. But the wind in our ears won't subside, so the gods mutter truths half forgotten, old vanity lost to the tide. Then they vanquish a storm with a sigh, and our thundering world wanes and softens. We remain in the sand side by side, all our emptiness lost to the tide. So that is from, it's a villanelle form, and that's my zine. It's called Many, If Any, Agnostic Paganism in Practice. And it's about not or half-heartedly believing in things, but still hugging trees anyway. So that is available at the downstairs bar. They have their wonderful zine display, and all of the profits from this are going to the Cayuga Share Farm. That poem, I should also say, was originally published in an online and print journal called The Madrigal, which is based in Dublin, Ireland. They're phenomenal, wonderful editors. I have another one that I'm going to read that is on a similar theme, but not in the zine, because it is going to be published in a journal called Dear Poetry Journal, which is all dedications. And it'll be sometime this late spring or early summer. So this one is called I Saw Venus at Dawn and She Had Nothing to Tell Me But. Good morning. I'm here. Bit warm today. Thanks for asking. Had you forgotten clouds can sparkle? Sun's coming. Light reflected is not multiplied, but it is enough. Other worlds exist. Your tits look great. I'll be here all day. Holler if you need anything. So that's from Venus. I have one more that I will share, and where is it? It's a sort of goodbye poem. So this is also in the zine. This one is called A Charm for Letting Go. That the sea will lap at the soles of your feet, that the trees will creak your name, that sleep will soothe your soul complete and the breeze your troubles tame, that every living thing will brighten when you walk into the room, that the stars will whisper into your night and speak well of you to the moon, that all the world will heed this gentle prayer I plead as I release you from my care. That's all. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to do this.
Thank you for coming and sharing your work. That was really great. I love that. I just want to take a second and mention, since it seems like we have a few published folks who are reading today, if you have links or anything to your works that you want to share, feel free to pop that into the chat. So yeah, thank you very much, Emily. And now we have Nancy Dafoe is next.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to read two poems from my newest collection of poetry. It is on grief and love, and it will be published in September by Finishing Line Press. I lost my son not very long ago, and the first is called Waiting for the Cardinal to Return. Waiting for the cardinal to return to fighting reflection in my window, stay-at-home directive in midst of pandemic, listening for whirling whispers and weighted sighs of roof lifted by wind, or are they sighs from ghosts of those lost? Stay at home barefoot, padding unfamiliar, wrapped in blanket by the fire, watching for the ice to leave, waiting for early arrival of passing through birds, diving ducks on newly agitated water. Stay at home tracing changing face of landscape and memories, some joyful, others wailing, haunting as they will always be in the places we bring our babies home and hold them close, in the places of birth and death. Stay at home and listen for soft calls of mourning doves, waiting for the impossibility of return, a beautiful sun, stillness as photograph touched by glistening, tentative light. And the second poem is a duplex which is a new poetry form invented by the poet Jericho Brown. It's called Love Endures in Ways You Never Imagined. Love endures in ways you never imagined when you were young. You should only have to carry your child into this world. You should never have to carry your child from this world. An old woman said, take your pain and make something beautiful. The old woman said, take your pain and make something beautiful. When your daughter was born, you thought the world too small to hold such love. When your first child was born, you thought the world too small to hold such love. And then your second daughter's birth surprised you, revealing love is boundless. When your second child surprised you, revealing love is boundless, you recalled those nights, falling for the boy, become man, become husband. After you fell so deeply for your dark-haired boy, become man, become husband, you found your hearts welcoming your third, a son who simply said, I'm here. When your beautiful son was born, you felt the earth shake, and he said, I'm here. Love endures in ways you never imagined when you were still young. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. That was beautiful. Next up, we have Janie Bibbie. Janie Bibbie. Are you there, Janie?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I will be reading poems from 3 of my books. This one is Waiting Room, which you probably don't see very well. There it is, Waiting Room. Poems from Grief to Peace. And also from Keep Moving. Poems for What's Next. And from Willow, Poems for All Seasons. Wind. The wind is calm now. It was raging, blowing leaves and trees all around me. It's peaceful again. The wind has settled down, allowing me to rest, undisturbed by the swirling debris of my thoughts and memories flung far away and rushing back to overtake my equilibrium. Everything is different. Nothing has changed. Newness covers old habits and routines. The familiar feels foreign. Winds of change have moved me to a new space and place, calm before the next storm of life. Next. Next is waiting for you. You walk toward it every day, can't miss it. You will stumble into it, completely unaware of what now is not your care. Next will walk with you when you get there. You have no choice. Next is everywhere. As soon as your comfort level is at a 10, next is waiting to take you back to start again. Get used to next. It is your friend, and we will be with you until the end of what is now, the beginning of what is new. You and next will make it through whatever is waiting around the bend. No need to rush, no need to hide. Next is always by your side, if you are ready and if you are not. Next is worthy of your trust. Keep walking with what's next. We all must. It will become whatever is now. That's just how life goes. Time flies. As we crawl, walk, or run, hold on to time and you will see it moves on anyway, not slowed by our grasp. Time flies. Even when it appears to be standing still, it turns into years. Focus on what you need to do. Don't worry about time. It does what it must do. blaming through the ages. It was the woman's fault, and the blaming continues. It's our leaders' fault. We would be better off if they would do their jobs. Meanwhile, we each have something to do that's left undone. We're so busy claiming that he's the one or she's the one who got us into the problems we face. Stop for a moment and consider this. There is no hiding place. The one who sees tomorrow can certainly see us today. Wait. There are things I want to do. I pray. And God says, wait. There are places I want to see. I pray. And God says, not now. I want to feel better, get rid of the heaviness in my heart. And God says, give it to me and wait. He hands me a package of peace and love. He fills my heart with joy to sustain me while I wait. Giggles. Babies giggle, overjoyed by the sounds you make, the changes in your face. From raised eyebrows to broad smiles, they watch closely. You are the center of their joy. For a few moments, giggles fill all the empty spaces in your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was great. Also, I love all the comments in the chat. Had some really nice things. Okay, next on our list is Victoria Armstrong. Victoria, are you ready to go? Oh, I'm not seeing a Victoria in our participant list. Victoria? No? Okay, looks like she wasn't able to make it today. In that case, we'll move on to Ian Shapiro. Ian, are you ready?
I am. Thank you so much, Sophia. And thanks for organizing this event. And thanks to the library. What a great library we have. So I put in the chat, I've been writing poems for, I wrote some poems when I was much younger, but I've been writing poems for about 7 years since my mom died. And my mom was a wonderful short story writer. And one of our daughters is a wonderful writer. And our daughter, who's a wonderful writer, said, somebody asked her, how did you become a great writer? So she said, I got it from my grandmother. It skipped right over my dad. And but my mom started writing at the age of 58 when my dad died, which is about 40 years ago. And I started writing at the age of 58 when my mom died. So, but I tended to poems, and the poems tend to be stories. So the first one is Wrestling in the Street. They're both totally out of it and walking downtown when he starts behaving erratic and shouting. He just isn't himself. They're crossing 6th when he suddenly stands and shouts, we just need to be clever. If we're clever enough, we can get what we want. If we're clever enough, we can convince others to do what we want. And if we're clever enough, we can sell ourselves, find the jobs we want and get ahead. We just need to be clever enough. He stands and shouts. She grabs him round the waist and says, you must get out of the middle of the street. He pounds her back with his fists, and she half drags, half lifts him to get him out of the street, thinking light will change and they'll be hit by a car. No need to be clever, she shouts. We need to be authentic. He shouts, there's no such thing. Authentic is just a fake, the cleverest fake. He still pounds her back. She drags him toward the curb. You're wrong, she shouts. There is authentic out.
Oh, Ian, I think you froze. Can you hear me? No, Ian, are you there? Uh-oh, it seems that we're having some technical issues. I'm sorry, Ian. Give it another little bit. Maybe he'll come back. If not, then we might have to go on to our next person, and hopefully he'll be able to join us again and we can hear the rest of his poem. Are you there, Ian?
I'm back.
Oh, okay, great. Great.
So I think I remember where I left off. I'm sorry, it was getting dramatic here. His head smacks the curb, her head smacks it, and she shouts, oh, my head. And he starts rolling, and he rolls onto the sidewalk. And she finally lets go, and he's rolling down the filthy sidewalk. He's shrieking, and he shouts, I've got a lump on my head, and it feels authentic enough. And she says, that's a start. Let's start with that lump. That's what cleverness gets you. He keeps shouting and rolling, and finally rolls up where he hits a building facade under a fire department hose connection. And she crawls up next to him, and they're hit with a
Oh, Ian, you cut out again. Okay. Ian seems to be having technical difficulties again. Give it another few seconds. Hopefully he'll get back to us. Can you hear us, Ian? Okay. So while we wait for Ian, we have one last person on the list here, Linda Crowley, excuse me.
Sophia?
Oh, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, you cut out again. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry, I got a bad connection. I'm almost done with this poem, and then I've got a shorter poem.
Okay, do you think it would help if you turn off your video? Sometimes that can help if there's
I'm trying to be expressive.
Yeah, I know.
I'm almost at the end.
Okay.
And then let's give it a shot. If it cuts out one more time, I'll try and get a better signal and come on again.
Okay.
So they locked arms, they both walk off down 6th, and he says, I'll take a little less clever if we can be a little more together. So that's Wrestling in the Street. The second song is called, and she sang, Glory, Glory, Hallelujah. She named her rescue dog Glory, and she loved to put herself, as she put it, in Glory's paws. And she sang Glory, Glory, Hallelujah, and Glory would come running, and together they howled, Hallelujah. She would get down on the floor with Glory and scratch Glory's ear and her own hard and fast. When they were out for a walk, when Glory scampered up a bank, chasing a smell, She would scamper too and chase the smell too. And when they met another dog and Glory would sniff the other dog, she would drop on all fours. You get the picture, right? And she's saying, Glory, Glory, hallelujah. And Glory would come running and together they howled, hallelujah. And one day out for a walk, it was raining and they walked through the woods. It was spring and the snow had melted and the trail was covered in mud. You know where this is going, right? They came to a spot. They had to cross a stream and it was all mud. Glory waded in and waded through and then stopped and waded back and lay down and rolled in the mud. And she said, Glory, Glory, hallelujah. And she waded in and she lay down and she rolled in the mud. And Glory lay there and put out her paws. And she put her hands between Glory's paws. And they lay there, burdened down together in the mud. And then Glory got up and she got up and she sang, Glory, Glory, hallelujah. And Glory came running and together they howled, hallelujah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. That was great. Glad we could make it there to the end. All right. So our final reader here is Linda Crowley. Linda, are you ready to go? Great.
I'm ready. I'm not a poet. I write children's stories mostly. The one I selected today is actually a short story taken from a longer piece that I am in the process of still working on. It's a fantasy or sci-fi, whatever you want to call it. And this selection is called Memory Day. Orange is a sad color, like the faded tones of the dying sun at the end of the day. It is the color of loss. I stare out the window with unseeing eyes, but my heart sees the rows of bodies on their orange-draped funeral scaffoldings that line the great square, bodies of women and children and of Thera. My heart trembles as I recall those terrifying hours decades ago when we sat crumpled in the cave, praying the brutal government soldiers would not find us. Thera's fingers convulsed about my arm as the sounds of slaughter pierced our hearts. Markin, I'm scared, she confessed. I squeezed back my own fears and tried to comfort her. Shh, the soldiers won't find us here. Acrid smoke from the burning fields filled the darkness of the cave where we huddled. That was my father's work. He refused to turn over the labor of his hands to the government soldiers, choosing to burn his own fields instead, even though it meant starving in the months ahead. Not that most would survive this day to face starvation. The realization washed over me with an icy wave. We'll be okay, I lied. I was only 2 turns older than Thera's 11 turns, but the budding man in me wanted to protect my friend. Why do they want to kill us? She sobbed. We didn't do anything to them. And Papa always said, her voice broke. Her father had been one of the first to fall. Papa said without the food we produce, the people in the city would be hungry. They need Harlonia and the other communes like us to survive. The words spilled out with a rush. What will become of us? It will be like Canor last turn. The soldiers will take everything valuable, claiming it's owed for taxes. Next season, they send replacement workers to farm the land. Only the new families will be loyal to the leader, not to our God. But what of us? Thera insisted. What happens to us? Once the soldiers leave, We will tend to the dead and hang the orange banners to honor them. After that, we will go to the temple and pray together. Eloi will care for us. If I said it firmly enough, perhaps I could believe it myself. You are strong, Thera, strong and smart. I hugged her and pretended to myself that I could keep her safe. Thera considered my words. Yes, she declared with increasing conviction. We're not defeated. We'll go onward. Eloi will watch over us. Returning to our village the next day, we found it completely destroyed. Salvaging what we could, we trudged across the countryside to the caves above the river where Thera's older brothers hid out with the rebels. They fought against the corrupt government that sought to destroy all believers. It was our turn to join now, or at least to stay with our brothers until we were old enough to do more. In the years that followed, I worked hard and quickly rose through the ranks of fighters. Thera insisted on going through the training with me. Her quick mind and her strong faith combined to make her an inspiring leader. Riding ahead, waving our banner high for all to see, she urged us all to strike hard and fast in the name of Eloi, our God. With my knowledge of tactics and her brilliant figure leading the way, our rebel troops could do no less than their best. We won many battles. The ruling government was as strong as it was evil. Our victories came to a halt when their leader determined to put an end to us once and for all. Raiders hit our villages, destroying entire families. My beloved Thera was also struck down and killed. And now I stare out the window at the multitude of orange-draped scaffoldings and ache with the loss. General, my aide announces as he opens the door. It's time. The people are waiting for you. Thank you, Lieutenant. I'm ready. Except I wasn't. What can I possibly say to the mourning families and the disheartened troops? Please, Eloi, give me the words. Then I recall again that fateful day in the caves, and I knew what Thera would say, what I must say. I step out to face the crowd below. The government thinks they can destroy Eloi by destroying us, but they're wrong. We will continue to fight their evil. Eloi has not abandoned us, and we will not abandon him. We will fight on. I raise up Thera's banner with the orange streamers attached. Onward, friends, onward in the name of Eloi, our God. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That was great. Very much enjoyed that. Very resonant. Yes, Nancy. Okay, so that is the end of our list, unless Victoria has joined us since we passed by her spot. If not, then I would like to open up the floor to anyone in our audience who might like to read something for us. If you go to the reactions and raise your hand, I should be able to see you.
How do I? Reactions. I would like to respond, but I don't see how I can.
Sure. Is this Mary Woodsen?
Mary, yeah.
Yeah.
Mary
Okay,
Woodsen.
sure. Why don't I just let's see. Okay. So why don't you go ahead, Mary? Thank you.
Thank you. This is A Mother's Touch. Upstairs at last, she shook off her blouse and stepped out of her hot, sticky jeans. Tall basswood trees cradled the side of the house, and the breeze slipping through the open window was always balmy and soft. What a relief to be home. Visiting her mother had always left her feeling drained, even now. She sat down on the edge of the bed. She could just stretch out and stare at the sky, or what she could see of the sky, with the green boughs bending so close. When she woke up, it was evening. Small birds flitted through the trees, the afterthought of a summer night. The light beneath the windows was a deeper shade of blue, and the breeze had fallen. Yes, she felt much better now. She leafed through the dresses in the closet and slipped into the one that was worn but still bright. Closing the door behind her, she went downstairs. The kitchen was flooded with light. Outside, scraps of clouds drifted high and golden. Somewhere toward the back of the property, she heard the tractor revving up. He must be about done for the day, and she could see that he'd already made a simple salad. He'd be pleased if she made the main course. She opened the cabinet to get the olive oil and was surprised to see the strawberry jam right there in front. She had to reach around it for the oil. She thought she'd forgotten it in the back seat of the car. Well, not quite forgotten, ignored. So of course he brought it in. Could she blame him? But she slammed the cabinet door anyway. Hey now, she told herself, slamming the door on an innocent jar of jam, a gift. She grabbed some potatoes and began chopping at them. Even now, with all those years gone by, still to feel this way. And the woman was almost peaceful now, almost motherly. That little frame house was quiet and calm with the last of the children gone, and a pot of scarlet pansies stood blooming by the door. Those hard, rough hands, they'd found gentler tasks these days, making strawberry jam, having the leisure to make it, wanting to make it and wanting to give. What do you do with all these crazy feelings? You feel like you love your mom in ways. It breaks your heart to remember all that pain. She was someone who had finally learned, a little late. Isn't it all the more remarkable and moving? To suspend the grief, the bitterness, the rage. You know at last that she loves you, her daughter. And you know in your mind what a difference that makes, but it doesn't stop She shivered. She remembered something too dark to see. Her knife skittered across the board. She opened the cabinet door again. The potatoes sizzled in the skillet. Now she needed some salt, paprika, garlic powder. But when she reached to set aside the jam, she couldn't bring herself to touch it. Too easy to see her mother holding the jar or her arm and trying to say goodbye. She shoved it away with their knife, even at this distance, to feel a mother's touch.
Thank you, Mary. Was that the end of your reading then?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Is there anybody else who would like to read something?
Linda Ring.
Linda? Oh, hi, Linda. Okay. Why don't you go right ahead? Thank you.
Okay. This is called How to Help You. If you were broken, then I could put you back together with duct tape and glue. If you were a tangled chain, then I could tease you apart at the knots with the pointed tool of patience. If you were a variable in an algebraic equation, then I could calculate and solve for X. I could figure you out. A watch that won't keep time? Pinch and twist and turn and wind. Make your hands move over your face again. But I can't hold you up to my ear to hear you ticking. Let me hold you and find you ticking. Stay alive. I will not bury you. No book told me to say that. No book told me not to. I will watch you grow up. You will watch me grow old. When you're wilting, a fading flower, I will fill the bucket and watering can and come to you in that dry place. When you feel like a joke that falls flat, I will get you even if I'm the only one laughing. Listen, when you fall like a dime, dropped in the dirty street, unnoticed, I will notice you. I will pick you up. I will see you shine. Wild dream. I dreamed I was awake, doing what I do only in my dreams, living under the sea, swimming with the ancient coelacanth, flying through voluminous clouds without wings, floating down the sky without a parachute, reaching a mountaintop and having enough breath left to sing, knowing the unknown soldier's name, knowing the unknown name of my mother's grandmother's great-grandmother, lighting my grandmother's dark hair with fireflies and stars, singing scat like Ella Fitzgerald, stretching myself as tall as a sequoia, running through the woods alone, saying no when I mean no, fearing nothing. And this is untitled. One day we'll all be world citizens who won't require passports to cross the heavily guarded borders of each other's hearts. The world citizen won't say mine, not yours. She will say, you're welcome, come in, and put the kettle on for tea. When we are all world citizens, we will cross rivers together over bridges that flow both ways. We will all or none live near the chemical plant and drink the water and eat the fish. There will be no funny smell in the air. There will be no funny feeling in the air. Kind words and warm greetings will cross our lips easily. The open wound of racism will finally heal. The barbed wire of meanness will be gathered up and put away. When my hurt is a canyon that I cannot cross, I long for wings that I might soar in the atmosphere of love and make it to the other side of pain. When will kings serve their people? When will we all eat at the same table? When we are world citizens, home will be in every mouth, in every place. Proof of citizenship? None needed. Proof of citizenship? Myself. I walk, I talk, I breathe, I bleed. Let us sharpen the knife of our intellect and get ready for the times coming when we will not live in the world, but the world will live in us. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That was wonderful. So glad that you were able to share that with us. So I think we have time if there's one more person who would like to read something for us. Also, I just want to mention any of the readers, if you haven't been checking the chat while this has been happening, there's been a lot of really nice comments in there. So I definitely recommend opening that up before you leave. So anyone else? Okay. I'm not seeing anyone else who's volunteering. So I would like to give a round of applause to all of our participants and our readers. You guys were all great. Thank you to our extra surprise readers at the end as well. That was great. I am willing to stay on for a little longer if anybody would like to unmute themselves and speak to the readers or anything like that. So if anybody has any comments they want to share.
I just want to say thank you to all the readers. I'm currently Teresa Vedic and I'm the assistant director right now, but I actually started open mic years ago, and it's really great to see it still going strong. So thank you everyone for participating and for all, for sharing your writing. I really appreciated it.
Wonderful, thank you. So yes, thank you to everyone who joined us. Very happy, excellent turnout. Great job, everybody. This
is the first time this is Susie.
Hi, Susie.
I just wanted to know if you have regular reading time like this. or this is just a one-time thing?
So I don't know that I call it regular. We do this open mic annually. If this is something that people would like to do more often, we could definitely consider doing it more often. I thought the virtual can make things harder for some things, but I think this actually turned out pretty well. This format worked pretty well for it. So yeah, I think that's something we can consider doing more often. So yeah, thanks for the question. But yeah, we will definitely be doing it again next year for Spring Rights. We've been doing that annually for the last several years, as Teresa said. So, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much because I'm an avid audiobook listener. So I always find that this is a good opportunity to kind of listen to stories and also practice actually telling stories, because I found that reading the stories actually, the reader really made a huge difference in terms of how the work is received. So.
Yeah, and we had some truly excellent readers here today. I loved listening to everybody. It was so good.